Hello and welcome to Realistic Pressurized Water Reactor. So this is a new game which is a spin-off of Realistic Boiling Water Reactor, and I will be showing you how to start this up and what are the main features of the game. So I will assume that you already know RPWR. So I won't be going into every little detail of the game. Still, you may find it a bit complex as the physics is a bit different. Okay, so what I want to start with is disabling the residual heat removal system. At this moment, this is very simplified, just two switches, and I will enable the startup heater. As the startup takes a little bit of time, I want to do it now. And startup heater is probably not a thing that you would find in every pressurized water reactor, but we have decided to implement this in order to make the startup a little quicker, because normally the reactor will be started with just pure decay heat, but this takes a very long time even in this game. So we have a startup heater, and as you can see, the water temperature is already rising. I will enable also two pressurizer heaters here, and I will quickly explain how this works. So basically, so you can see this is the temperature in the hot leg. So actually it's the reactor temperature. It's rising due to the startup heater, but what we want to do is we want to heat this water a little bit more. So you can see this is the temperature in the pressurizer, and this is what we use the pressurizer heaters for. And because this temperature is higher, the water is already boiling, we have some pressure, and this pressure increases the boiling point. And what you want to do, so this is the saturation temperature, what you want to do is you want to have this higher, this saturation temperature, than the temperature in the core. So this guarantees that you are not boiling water in the core, and you never want to do it in a pressurized water reactor. So this is the condenser panel. I will just start the condenser air removal pumps. So these are electric pumps which will slowly decrease the pressure in the condenser to around half. Once it's at the half of the scale, we can open the main steam isolation valve. So I'm doing this at the start because all of this takes a little bit of time. Now I think I can start explaining everything. So this is our reactor panel. I will describe this just in a moment. So this is the pressurizer. So pressurizer, you can see this is the water level in the pressurizer. This is actually also water level in the reactor core. It's the same level because everything is connected as the primary system. So we have the temperature here, pressure and saturation temperature. And we have two legs in the primary. So there is a left leg and the right leg. Only the left leg has the pressurizer, so it's one common for both of the systems. And this is the main cooling panel where we can pump the water around. So the water goes from the reactor into the steam generators, which are here, and then back to the reactor. This is the primary circuit. So you can see the temperature in the left leg is 164. In the right leg it's cooler. This is because the heater works only in the left part where is the pressurizer located. Later on they will even out. And you can also see that there is some circulation already happening. This is some natural circulation. So already some of the energy from the heater is distributed to the secondary, which is fine, because before we start up the reactor we want both of the systems pressurized. Okay, so let me enable this, because we already have some boiling happening, so we need to feed the steam generators with water. So I will explain this in a moment. Okay, back to the primary. So we have 4 pumps. These are the reactor coolant pumps. 2 pumps for the left part and 2 for the right. I will enable them. So when you enable the pumps, you just need to enable the inlet and outlet. And the middle switch is used to set up the pump. So if you move this, you can see the percent here in the set point rising. I will stop this for now, we don't need them yet, but I will put this also on auto. So this is auto control for left and right leg. Here you have the set points where you can set the desired temperature. Some of the real-life reactors have a constant RPM pumps for the coolant flow, so if you want you can use it like that. So you just don't use the auto control, you only put the pumps at some constant RPM, like 80%, and you can leave it like that. And it will work, although this will cause the temperature in the core to change depending on power. If you want a constant temperature, you would have to adjust it. Okay, so now going to the second panel. So this is the panel for the secondary system, secondary circuit of water, where we have the steam generators. So you have temperature in the steam generator. This is the secondary water circuit. Yes, so if you want to see the temperature in the primary, they are here. This is the hot leg, so this is what the temperature that feeds the steam generator, and the cold leg, this is what comes out. So you can also see the difference. Now it's pretty high, above the scale actually, between hot and cold, but later on this will be around 10 to 20 degrees. So this is the temperature of the water in the secondary. You can see it's already above 100 degrees, so the water is boiling. You can see there is some steam generation, and while the steam is being generated, you of course want to feed the reactor, steam generator with the same amount of water. So this is handled by the feed water pumps. So now they are on auto control. You can see the auto control is setting up the set points here. The left one needs more water feed because, as I mentioned, the heater works mainly in the left part, so there is more boiling here. Actually, this one is not boiling any water at this moment. Later on this will average out. This will balance. Okay, so we have one electric pump for the left steam generator, one for the right, and we also have steam driven pumps. We will use them later when we have enough steam available. At this moment we need to use the electrical ones, so they are just auxiliary pumps or emergency pumps. The main pumps you want to use are the steam driven. Okay, let's see at our condenser. The condenser is pretty basic, similar to RPWR. So yeah, the pressure is already pretty low, so let me just open the main steam isolation valve. We have steam jet air ejectors. There are 4 of them. We should use 2 at the moment, and we have 2 circulation pumps. I will just enable them, put it on auto control, and on the turbine panel I will open bypass to around 20%, which is the setting for the startup. So now we are sending steam from the main steam line into the condenser. The auto control will now set up the circulation flow to reduce the condense the pressure to the desired level. So this is now happening, and we are pretty much set up at this moment. Okay, of course we should also enable preheaters. There are 4 of them and 1 polisher. This should increase the steam generation rate. So the primary is pressurizing slowly, the secondary is pressurizing slowly, the primary is heating up. Once we are over 250 and 230 in the right leg, we can start up the reactor. So it's just a moment until we can do it. Because if you try to pull the rods now, you will have a temperature block. It won't allow you to start up the reactor yet. Okay, so let me explain how the reactor works. It works pretty much the same as in RPWR. We have left this panel where you can select rods, although it's not a thing that would be found in a pressurized water reactor. I wanted to have this so you know which rods are selected. Normally in a PWR you work with some banks of rods, so these are the shutdown banks. You should pull them first because that's how the procedure is designed. They should be all the time pulled out, at least during startup, because they give you some buffer in the reactivity. You can always cram them back to the reactor. So I will select these 2 banks. So you can see these are selected rods, and you can also see it on the diagram which they are, and I can start pulling them now. So I'll do it on fast, and this is how the indicator works. Each step is 5%. Of course we have reactor period here and IPRM, which will be available later. At start we are looking at the source range monitor. Also we will go through intermediate range too. Okay, let me just have a look if everything is set up. Primary pressure, optimal pressure is between 10 and 15 megapascals, so we are not yet there, although we should be pretty much soon. Steam generator water level at 1, that's what we want, and condenser pressure is okay. So this is gonna take a little time, so maybe I will explain quickly the electrical panel. It's pretty simple. We have 3 buses. So this is the main bus, this is the safety bus, and we have also a low power bus. So different devices are connected to different of the buses. So the low power bus can be powered by the battery. This is how we do it. Now it's battery powered. Okay. It can also be powered from the safety bus by this switch. So now it's powered from the safety bus. And both of these buses can be powered from either the generator or each of the offsite lines, because we have 2 offsite lines which are independent of each other. So this is the main line. We are connected now to the main line. So you can see, if you look at the diagram, both buses are powered from here. If you want to power from the auxiliary line, you can do it also like that. The auxiliary line has only 10 megawatts of maximum load, so you can use it during startup, but you cannot use it on higher power operations. And also this line doesn't accept power from us, so we cannot send power to this line. This line must be online to be able to work with it. Also, we have this switch, which is kind of independent from the synchronization switch or the generator switch, which is here. The generator switch, this is just this breaker on the turbine panel. I will show you later how this works. Let me just go back to the main transformer. This load is so little that you can hardly see it. Okay, how are we looking here? So this rod should be... Are we pulling the rods? Yep. Average rod position is rising, so you have to wait until all the... It's not yet fully out, it's like 95%. So let's just wait a moment, and once this stops... Yeah, now it stopped, we are fully out. So I will deselect. Now we can start pulling the other banks. So let me start with this 3. I will pull the middle just in a moment, because the middle heats up quickest, so I don't want to pull it yet. Okay, this is the maximum we can get at this temperature set point, 280 degrees. We can add another heater. This will boil some more water and we should have more pressure here, though we don't need it yet. Okay, let's have a look at the supervisor panel. So we have some monitors with some basic information. You can see period here, concentration of boron. Okay, boron is another thing which I will describe in a moment. So this is the primary circuit, temperature in the core, on both sides of the core, saturation temperature, and this is the cold leg. Okay, and this is our information, the steam generators, so water level, steam generation rate, feed water flow. You can see feed water flow should be more or less the same as the steam generation level. Then the water level is constant. Pressure, which is slowly rising, and the bypass opened. So you see bypass is taking less steam than we are generating, so the pressure will obviously rise. Let me just have a look at this. Okay, seems fine. So here we have the condenser, which is pretty self-explanatory. This is the network status. So you can see there is some demand. We are sending a negative number to the network because we are powered from the offsite at this moment. You can see also which buses drain how much power, how they are powered. And this is the auto control panel. It shows you which of the automatic devices are enabled at this moment. And we also have a technician monitor, which gives you the current status of the system. So you see something is malfunctioning, we don't know yet what. So the procedure is the same as in RPWR. If you want to tag something, you need to disable it, and then you can put the tag, and then you can repair it. Okay, how are we doing here? Still pretty low in the source range. It's gonna take some time. In the meantime, I will increase the set points. I want about 300 degrees in the core. So once I do this, you should see reduction in the coolant pumps. Obviously, if you want temperature to rise, then you don't want to cool it. So now the temperature should start rising slowly. That's what you can see. This will immediately kill the steam generation because we are now transferring less power to the secondary because we are not cooling the primary. But once the pumps again start rotating in the primary, this will come back to what we have seen before. Okay, let me now pull the core. This will speed up the reactor a lot, hopefully. And what we can also do, we have boric acid here, so we can borate to lower reactivity or dilute it to increase reactivity. Just to show you, if we start diluting, the period should drop pretty quick. Okay, let's stop, because we are already nearing criticality. So pressurized water reactor will work using boron mostly once the rods are pulled. So let me now reduce the speed of the rods pull, because the period is quite low already. Okay, you see it's dropping again. So we are pretty much critical now. And you can see that we are slowly out of the source range into intermediate power range. Okay, let's stop here. So you can see after the rods are stopped, the period is rising, but it's rising very slowly. So we are now critical. Actually, the reactor power is rising almost exponentially now. And we are at the first level of the IPR. There are 6 levels. So we have to go through the whole process of incrementing the IPR. On the 6th level, we will be at around 1% of reactor power. Okay, we are at 70%, so now I can increment this level 2. Okay, let me check everything. 300 degrees in the left leg. That's okay. Water level is fine. There is some pressure already. If we want, we can start using the steam-driven pumps. And if you want to use auto control with them, this is your selection between electric and steam. So maybe let me switch it to steam. I will reduce this to 10%. And let's see what happens. As you can see, the auto control is now enabling the steam-driven pump. Okay, quickly to explain the turbine, this is the same stuff as in RPWR. So we have bypass, we have turbine starter, turbine valve. This is our generator breaker, and we also have this coarse valve for bigger adjustments of the turbine valve. We have auto control for the run-up, and we have also an exciter, which is pretty simple. I will explain this in a moment. Okay, let me maybe pull the rods a little bit to quicken this up. Okay, this is interesting. The period is dropping now. Looks a bit scary. So maybe let's put some boron into the core. As you can see, when I am injecting boron, period rises. Okay, level 5. Looking good here. So you don't want to disable the startup heater, because if you do so, the temperature would drop in the primary, and this can cause a power spike, which will basically trip your reactor. You don't want to do that. You want to disable the heater only when you are already producing enough heat to actually maintain the power, the temperature. Yeah, so I missed the IPR again. Fortunately, it won't trip the reactor. At least for now, it works similar to Unit 1 in RPWR. And we should have now IPRM. Yes, here it is, 1%. We can switch to run mode. In this mode, we can use all the rods, and we can use auto control. So I will put this onto 20%, which is the power for our run-up. So the auto control works either with rods or with boron. So we can switch it to boron if we want, and at this moment we can see, we should be able to see, at this moment nothing is happening, but the auto control will change. You can see now it's changing the concentration of boron to control the reactor. Okay, maybe I will close the bypass now, so I will be able to build the pressure a little quicker. We want around 7 megapascals, and we should be ready for a turbine run-up. 10%. Okay, this is the moment that I can safely switch off the heater. Let's see what happens. Nothing special is happening here because it doesn't have such a strong effect now. The reactor is mostly heating us. Okay, let's see. We have 12 megapascals. This is fine. You can actually maybe disable one of the heaters. Saturation temperature is 326, so it's plenty. We don't want to go over 300 now. 310 is probably the highest rated temperature. 315 still is okay. Okay, we're at 20%. Over 5 megapascals in the secondary. Everything under control here. Both temperatures are quite similar. You can see this is the balance. So the left one is hotter a little bit, about 3 degrees. This is the difference between hot and cold leg. The higher is the number, the more energy we are transferring. Okay, we are ready for the turbine run-up, so let's do it. So this is turbine starter. I will open this coarse valve, maybe to 10%. And let's look at our pressure rate. It's close to 1, just a little over, so the pressure is rising still. And the synchronization RPM for this plant is 1500. Okay, this is happening a little too quick. I will need some of the bypass. And this is when I also enable the exciter. Okay, I will now use problem. So now when I'm close with the RPM, you can also read the RPMs. Where is it? Here. Now we want to set up the exciter. We want to have it at the same voltage as the bus. So this is the... oh my god, I moved the wrong switch. So let me set up the turbine again. Pressure is a little too high. Okay, so this is the exciter switch. You can see this will depend on the setting and the RPM. So I do it once the RPMs are pretty close to 1500. You see we are pretty close. So this is the place I want to set up the exciter. This is fine, you don't have to be exact. Okay, now let's synchronize the turbine. So this is the standard procedure. You want to have the synchroscope at the top. Should be clockwise if you want to do it the proper way. So now it's moving clockwise. 1501. This is the perfect setting. Okay. Okay, synchronized. So I will now put auto pressure hold here, and I will rise power to about 50%. Let's just check if everything is okay here. Condenser pumps might have a little lag. Let's see the demand. So the demand is 350. The top power of the reactor is 500 megawatts. So I will need more, probably about 70%. And when we are controlling it with the boron, I want to quickly explain it to you. So we have two tanks, the water tank and the boron concentrate tank. So now you see this level is dropping. It means that the auto control is injecting boron. So the concentration of boron should be rising. Of course, if you are diluting, then it will be injecting water. And you want to recycle this, reuse it again. So this is what is this panel for. Let me just check if everything is okay. Yeah. Okay, let's put 310 here. So whenever something is injected into the core, either it's water or it's the boron concentrate, the same amount is taken out of the core and gets into the extract tank. This is to maintain constant level. Obviously, if you're injecting something, you want to take out the similar amount. And as there is already some concentration of boric acid in the water, what you have in this extract tank is a mixture of water and boric acid. And in order to divide this, split this up, you have an evaporator. So now I will provide steam heat to the evaporator. See, the temperature will rise. You need to have steam in a secondary for this to work. And I will pump this extract to the evaporator. So you see the evaporator level is rising, this is dropping. And once the temperature reaches 100 degrees, the water will start boiling here and pressure will rise. And once all the water boils out, we will have the boric acid at the bottom. And we can then move these two things back to the tanks. So this process needs just a moment. Okay. Let's see how are we doing with the demand. So we are still below. There is a lower limit than in RPWR. You need to be plus minus 25 megawatts to have the demand met. Also, you must be aware that everything reacts here with a lag, because this is the primary and secondary system, so it takes a moment before everything adjusts. Okay, so now we are boiling water, and once this stops to drop, it means, like now, this is what is left now is the boric acid. So now I can move the steam out. You see the pressure is dropping and the water tank is rising. Of course, in real life there is some kind of condenser. For it, this is simplified. Basically, when this goes to zero, we are back with full water tank, and now we can take out what's left on the bottom to fill the concentrate tank. So this is an ongoing process, because the reactor is using this boron all the time. So you see the extract tank is filling up again. So if you are working with boron, you should probably pay attention to this from time to time. fill back your tanks. Okay, we are done. I can leave the heating up for later use. So we are now in demand, 3 megawatts below. It's fine. So you should see my points rising. They are rising pretty slowly, 1 point every 6 seconds. So this is the same scheme as in RPWR. If you disable any of the autocontrols, there is a time penalty. Once it gets to 0, you will get more points per second. That's how it works. So yeah, this is basically how it works. Okay, so now I want just to show you, because probably you will want to work this on manual at some point. So you must be aware that it works a little bit different than a boiling water reactor, because we have this so-called turbine master reactor slave scheme, and I will show you how this works. So let me disable the auto control for the reactor, for the coolant pumps. I will leave the feed water on auto because it doesn't affect power generation. The feed water just needs to feed water to keep this constant, so it doesn't matter. And I will disable also the auto pressure hold. So now you can see everything is more or less stable. This is rising slowly, but it's very slow. The reactor is, yeah, it's rising. Probably this is due to xenon. So maybe this process will be not that easy to demonstrate. I will try to put this on constant. But anyway, you see that the reactor has tendency to rise in power. So what I will do is I will reduce the steam demand. So I will reduce the turbine valve, let's say by 100 megawatts, just to show you. So let's reduce it to 300 megawatts. I will use turbine valve to do so. Okay, 304. And let's see what happens now. You should immediately see that the reactor started to drop in power pretty quickly. See the negative period. And this is a natural phenomenon for the pressurized water reactor. Once we reduced steam demand here, the pressure started to rise. You can see this. As the pressure rises here, the temperature also rises. What is the temperature? It's a good question. Yeah, this is the temperature. It's over the limit. So once the temperature rises, also temperature rises here. See, in the primary. It's now above what we have said before, and this reduces the reactivity. So this kills reactor power. So you can see it reduced by almost 10%, and now it should more or less self-stabilize. So the temperature will start dropping here now. This will reduce steam production, and this should also reduce pressure. So you can see, although it started dropping again. So I set this at 300 degrees. It rose back a little bit, but now it started to drop. Okay, more or less stabilized. So the problem is now you can see the power is rising again. So what we did, we moved the state of balance to the lower power with lower production here, but it's like a pendulum. It swung back. So it will now swing back to more or less where we were at 80%, and then it will swing back again to the lower powers. It's like a pendulum, and it exactly works like that. We just moved the balance to something about 74% of power. We moved the balance, but and we let it go. Now it's swinging around. So probably when you are doing manual control, this is what you want to do, that you change the steam demand with the turbine valve, but then once the reactor reaches the lowest point or the desired point, then you will have to adjust it by your reactor control, or possibly you might want to adjust it with your cooling. This is another important thing. Yeah, we are just now over the safe temperature. But this is another thing. You see, the temperature is too high. You might think, okay, so if the temperature is too high, okay, the reactor is now swinging back. Okay, not yet, but will in a moment. So if the temperature is too high, maybe I can use more cooling to drop this temperature. And this is something you need to know. You cannot change temperature with the coolant pumps alone. It just won't work. Why? Okay, let me just stop this reactor here. You see it stopped, it's even dropping a little bit. And let's say I will increase the coolant flow, it's pretty small at this moment, to reduce this temperature. Look what happens. So the temperature is now dropping, obviously. That's how it works. So I may say, yeah, I've achieved my goal of reducing the temperature here. Okay, let me stop it. But what will happen now? The reactor will increase power, because the reactor wants to have this temperature at the same level. You can see the temperature is rising again. So this is how it works. You can actually use the primary pumps control to control the power of the reactor. If you trip the pumps, let me do it now. If you trip the pumps, the reactor power should drop immediately, because there is no cooling. This is a safety check. Okay. The temperature is too high. Whoa. So anyway, this is everything I wanted to show you. Have fun with the game and see you next time.